Hello and welcome to another episode of the DSHIFT podcast. And I am so glad that you tuned in today. And you are going to be really glad you tuned in today because I have a special guest that you are definitely going to want to listen to. I'd like to introduce you to Cheryl Stelte. She is a spiritual coach, a master healer. She's a speaker, a best-selling author, and she is the founder of the Azerius Energy Healing Certificate Program. And Cheryl is a fellow Canadian, yay, also now living in the United States. But Cheryl really has a heart for helping people. I've had the privilege of meeting Cheryl in person and online. And every time I see her, she just is so positive and so giving of her gifts to help people. So Cheryl, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Marty. It really is an honor to be here.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you and my honor as well. So, Cheryl, tell me a little bit, or tell us, please, a little bit about what it is that you do and what's your area of expertise.
Okay, what it is I do, I'm all about healing and empowerment to the highest level and healing at the deepest level. And so I work with the chakras, I work with various energetic systems. I have, 30 years of ongoing training, multiple modalities, personal experience. And it was really, I started this journey to heal myself. And I'm sure we'll get into that. But I am so passionate about helping women clear their blocks, gain clarity, and become the greatest version of themselves, the greatest version that they can't even currently imagine.
Yeah. And you can hear your passion about doing this. So let's take a deeper dive into your background and what got you into this, because you said 30 years and I've heard your story before and it's so interesting. So can you just share a little bit about what got you to where you are now and what you're doing?
I really thought twice about getting on this podcast because it was such an intense turning point in my life, like many of you women out there, many people out there listening, uh, what led to my divorce and what happened afterwards. And so I married young, had two children, and we were married for 13 years. And I see now I was married to a covert narcissist, but nobody knew what that, or people, I guess, knew what it was back then, but it certainly was not in the common lingo
Right.
at all. And so he was emotionally abusive. And I was a very fiery woman, excited about life, loved to try new things. And really, when I left the marriage, I could see that, oh, he really kept me under his thumb. And that's what my friends and family would say. He really kept you under his thumb. Like
Yeah.
whenever I'd try and become more of me, he would, start a fight or find a way to keep me down. The turning point when I decided internally, and maybe, you can relate to this, and maybe the listeners out there, it was one night I had taken on a huge project. I was young. I was making 60 all-girl marching band uniforms. I had designed the blazers fully lined with interior pockets, full circle skirts, pants, tuxedo pants. I made my own bias tape, the cummerbunds, the blouses, two blouses for each of the works. And I designed them all, and I was making all these things on my own. I mean, it was quite the feat. And he got really tired of my sewing, and he came home drunk one night and threatened to throw my sewing machine out the window. Literally had the casement window open, and he had my sewing machine up in the air. And I said, "Go ahead, fill your boots." That's a Canadian saying
That
for all
is a
you
Canadian saying.
fill your boots. Fill your boots, go ahead. And he didn't do it. And we ended up getting into a really big fight. And he ended up, for the very first time, he punched me in the chest 3 times. And that was it. I was terrified. I called 911, and he ran out of the house. And I was just in shock. I was just in shock. That was my bottom. And I thought, I am not going to live this way. I
Right.
am not. And it was so great that the police came because they handed me, some contact information of where I could get help. I got the help and I really started to discover myself. And what I didn't realize then, I was discovering who I was not. This was not who I was.
Right.
I was so out of integrity. It went against my very being and what I believed in. Little did I know my own early childhood wounding contributed to how I ended up there. And so it was a little while later, I stayed in a transition house and saw that my life could be different just by being away from him. It was, we both got help and he really tried to change. He really, really did. It was never enough. And it was, I don't know, it wasn't too much later. I kept telling him, you were doing so much better. Things were really improving, but you're sliding back to your old
Right.
self. I'm not living that way anymore. And so I left.
Yeah.
I just laid it on the line. I don't need this and left. And then it was soon after that that I discovered spirituality. I had an extremely profound spiritual experience on the beach, never having meditated. The word spiritual meditation, none of that was in my vocabulary as well. And that's what led me on my healing path. And it was early on, I really started healing so much within myself, what got me there. And so very quickly, he was still antagonizing me, trying to get at me. But very early on, I was able to just let it go and forgive him completely, stand in who I really was. And I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I remember I had a job that was 6 hours a day. I was living below what people made on welfare, on
Right.
social, on income assistance, whatever you want to call it. And I refused to go that route. But for me, it didn't resonate. And I thought, I'm just going to find a way to make more money. And
Right.
I did. And I kept going and I kept, and so I discovered meditation. Discovered the healing power of meditation through the breath, which nobody taught me the way I started doing it. And then I got into shamanism, and then I got a diploma in acupressure, and on it went. And spiritual guidance, I was part of a spiritual school. I was part of the senior faculty retreat guide training, mentoring, coaching, on and on it went. And people used to say to me, you should teach what you do. When
Right.
I was healing myself, and I was always like, no, I would never do that. I have enough trouble taking care of myself, let alone helping others. And here I am.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing your story, because I think that is something that a lot of women can relate to, that there is that one point where most of us can turn around and look at and say, that was the point where I knew that I had to do something to change. So, and I know these stories are hard to tell. So, Cheryl, thank you for doing that. But I love the idea of, I mean, really a 180. And when you said that you were able to forgive him, my heart just got really happy when I heard that, because so many of the women I work with, it's, or you see in posting things on social media or whatever, it's years after the divorce and they're still carrying on with this hate and revenge and bitterness in their hearts, that it's impacting all their relationships moving forward. Their kids, their family members, any future sexual partners or soulmates or whatever you want to call them. It's influencing all of that, because that becomes just a part of you, that anger and that hostility. So how does what you do help dissipate that? Because that's the sense I get, that it's almost like it just releases from you. Is
Yes,
that
yes.
accurate?
It releases it in phases. And so you're very aware I do chakra readings. Um, And the way I can see this in people immediately, if they're carrying grudges, resentment, still pain from betrayal. We often feel so betrayed. And where that's shown is on the back of the heart chakra. If you're familiar with the chakras, that's the heart chakra is the major hub. If you're not familiar, we have these energy centers that function within our body, and they hold the blueprints of our being. They hold what's happened in our lifetime. And so forgiveness is often thought of as something that we do mentally. Oh, I'm going to forgive him. We can set the intention. I'm not going to hold any grudges. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
It's a certain level. It's somewhat superficial. It's beneficial for sure. Where we need to get to is to look at what our part was in it, but whatever our part was, whatever our wounding was that caused us to participate, to be with that person, and to recognize them as wounded. And forgiveness happens through the healing and empowerment process where it feels like it never even happened. Even sexual abuse, even the worst forms of abuse, we can get to a place of complete forgiveness. And I have worked with women who have been terribly sexually abused, molested, physically abused, emotionally abused, and who have done 30, 40 years of therapy. And they say to me, wow, no one's ever been able to help me to this level.
Right.
So it's all the energy of it is released. And you are right, Mardi. We're walking around with this vibration that we're completely oblivious to, and it'll come up in moments.
Yeah.
So anyone in our lives, that is part of the healing, and it's our own healing journey first. And then we start to see the other and see others separately. And really, we are all one. We may want to feel completely separate from that person who's hurt us, and we're not separate.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
and Cheryl, something that I know that I've had other guests come on and talk about how to raise your vibrations. And I don't know if you know Hillary DeCesar, but she has this whole thing where she gets you to listen to music that you love. And, if you've got to be upbeat, that you help get yourself energetically where you need to be. But one of the things that I always say to people when they say, oh, I don't believe in this stuff, because there are people out there, and there's people that are like, oh, I don't believe in this. This is too woo woo for me or whatever. But think about a time that you walked into a room and had not talked to any of those people before, and you immediately sensed what was going on in that room. How do you think that happened if it isn't being transmitted energetically? Like, how do you think it happened? So, yeah, I mean, there's real tangible results of letting go of that kind of stuff, and learning how to use it to your advantage, right? Using your skills to heal yourself to your own advantage. So how do you get people to start looking at this, Cheryl?
Well, first off, if spirituality is too strong a word, think of it as practical spirituality or the use of your energy. Science has proven, again and again, that we are energetic beings. We actually have light within us. Kirlian photography has proven that we have light. And science has also proven that trauma and our wounds are encoded in the right side of the brain, in the subconscious. So it's not that mindset work and that sort of thing doesn't help. It does. Talk therapy helps. It's all in the left brain. That's where we stay. And so it's sort of like mentally trying to forgive someone. It gets us to a certain level to get the deepest healing so we can move into that high vibration. Naturally, we heal in the subconscious. And so what I do is I help people go back into the subconscious, and I help groups do this. If you want to try, it's $22.22 to join a group. It's not a lot of money, and everybody feels differently at the end. Some much more than others, and it's going into what's trapped in the subconscious, which are emotions. It's the energy of emotions. We are energetic beings. We are emotional beings. And emotions are energy in motion. So like I said, when I do chakra readings on people, I see where your energy is flowing well, where you're light, where you're vibrating at that level of oneness, of being connected to the universe, source. And I also see where your energy is blocked. And that's dark energy. It always shows up as black or gray. There's no energy flowing there. Think of it like if you have a tumor in your liver, the energy is not going to flow there. That liver, that part of the liver is not going to function properly. It's like that. And so I call it the ACE method. One is you need to access those wounds, those traumas, often in early childhood, even as a toddler, a baby, even in the womb. I work with all sorts of people who the trauma goes back as early in the womb. You access what those are, what those traumas are, and then you can clear them. And I teach people how to do this for themselves, how to become your own energy worker. So you clear those subconscious blocks. And it's through that clearing that you move into empowerment. And that's what raises your vibration naturally, because then all that light and energy can flow where it wasn't flowing before. When we have blocks, we're vibrating at a lower frequency. When we're holding grudges, like you talked about, resentment, lack of forgiveness, disconnection, that's anger, fear, all of those. Shame is huge. Shame, I think, is one of the lowest vibrations. So we move that energy, we get it unclogged,
Right.
and then it creates the space. And so more of who you truly are will come in. And this is where so many people, like when I left my husband, and I'm sure, your viewers, whether you're there yet or not, you don't know where you're going, you don't know what you're meant for, but it's something. You're meant for more. And it's through this process of accessing it, clearing it, and empowerment is that energy flowing through, the clarity comes. Your true self starts to show up and it becomes very clear who
Yeah.
you are,
Yeah.
what you're designed for, and what your next steps are in life. And so that clarity fuels us even more. Oh, I got it now. Now I know. I should have known. Oh, wow, of course. And we can move to that higher level. And sometimes our fears can come up around that, who imposter syndrome and that sort of thing, but it's just more healing and empowerment.
Right. And so I want to just highlight, and correct me if I'm wrong. When you do this kind of work, it's not like therapy where you have to go back and re-experience the trauma. That's not what your work does, right? It's just moving the energy through the body, right?
Yes and no. It's a little bit of both. What we want to do, it's sort of like we need to touch into it. We need
Okay.
to touch into it. So it's kind of like a clogged plumbing pipe that has this old clog. You get this old house that this water hasn't flown through there in a very, very long time. And so you need to get a snake in there and poke at it. Well,
Right.
the snake doesn't initially completely clear it. It pokes at it and loosens it up. So it breaks up, and then the water can push the rest through. So it's like then the light can push the rest through. So we need to break it up. So we absolutely don't have to relive anything. And guess what? We don't have to remember. Memories are not required. Memories are sometimes not even useful because they make us get into the left brain and think again. Memories are not stored in the subconscious the way they are in the left brain. They're always fragmented. Whenever we have trauma, science has proven the memories are always fragmented. So if you're thinking of a trauma in your past and you have this linear memory, I have to wonder about it.
Right.
True trauma just has pieces, and that's where people with PTSD will get flashbacks. So we touch into it, it's working at the emotional level. And so there can be no memory at all. Oh, but the age, I get a sense that I'm 3 or 4 years old and I'm feeling so confused. I'm feeling this. So we work with the emotions and we get that energy moving so that the new emotions can come through. And it's doing inner child work at a subconscious level. I could go into a lot of detail, but then we're reprogramming the subconscious with new emotions, new beliefs. So
Yeah.
we turn around and we're different.
So this is fantastic because what I hear and whenever I hear this topic or people experts like yourself talking about this, it's so positive. It's not like, well, this is going to take you 5 years and, $200,000 and hours. This is actually a relatively brief process to start seeing, like you said, some people come on one group call and they're already experiencing significant differences in how they're feeling. So, yeah, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. And we're just about out of time, Cheryl. I can't believe how fast time goes when you're talking to people. But what are some of the signs that people, that women may benefit from having, like, an getting this energy circulating through their body, or getting this light flowing through their body a little bit better? What are some of the things that they might be experiencing physically or psychologically or emotionally? What are some of those signals that, hey, something's not flowing correctly in my body here?
Thank you for asking. So some of those symptoms or signals might be that you're not feeling as confident as you would like to, that you have difficulty speaking your truth, feeling seen and heard, setting healthy boundaries. You're feeling stuck. You know something's not right. You know you have blocks, and it's really hard for you to access them. You're not feeling motivated. It's hard to do what you know is best for you, especially anything to do with self-care. You're not in alignment with yourself. You don't have that joy. Not that we feel joy all the time, but the things in life that maybe once brought you joy don't bring you joy anymore. You have a hard time being vulnerable. You know that you could do so much better in your life, and no matter what you try, you're not getting there. The things you have tried just haven't gotten you to where you know you could be, where you want to be.
That's a really good, thank you, because I always kind of wondered, like, how would I know? So now I've got a good kind of guideline to go by. Cheryl, you have shared a ton of information. What do you think is the most important, or the most kind of the biggest takeaway you want people to think about?
I want you to think about the fact, the truth, that you are powerful beyond belief, beyond what you can currently imagine. You will not know how great you are until you clear those blocks to your greatness, and then your greatness can flow through you.
What a positive way to end this. Now, Cheryl, you have a really unique gift for people that are listening in. Can you tell us a little bit about this? And then I'm going to make sure all the information gets in the show notes below.
Yes, I'm very excited with my new giveaway. I have a pop-up podcast. And so what that is, it's a 3-series podcast that you'll get in your inbox. If you enjoyed listening to this, I go into all this information in more detail, teaching you how to become your own energy worker. And it's called Move Beyond Your Blocks, Gain Clarity, and Become Your Greatest Self. And so I invite you to click the link in the show notes, sign up for that, and you can learn how to really move forward in your greatest ways.
What a wonderful gift. Thank you so much, Cheryl. So if people want to, in the meantime, before they get a chance to click on the link and get your podcast, if they want to find out more about how to work with you, or find out more about what you do, what's the best way for them to reach out?
The best way is to go on my website, starofdivinelight.com. So it's all the words lowercase in one word, starofdivinelight.com. You can also just Google Cheryl Stelte, Stelte.
Cheryl, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This has been such a positive and enlightening, no pun intended, enlightening podcast, as I knew it would be. So thank you, Cheryl.
Oh, thank you, Mardi. It's just been such a joy to be here with you and contribute to all that you are doing in the world.
Well, thank you. And thank you all for listening to the DSHIFT podcast. And don't forget to tune in again next Tuesday. Thanks for listening and supporting the DSHIFT podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the DSHIFT crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.